So I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. We are being recorded, so remember anything you say can and will be known. It's a different It is 12:06 p.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of August. Paul Honeman, I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee of the Assembly, and along with me, my colleague, Mr. Gray Jackson. And Mr. Trainer will be joining us shortly, and Mr. Hall, again, unfortunately, will not be able to make it today. So we have several things on the agenda, and for a rare case, we have OEM here first, so if you want to go ahead and give us some information. Well, sometimes they get in here, but pretty often.
Yeah, the Officer of Emergency Management, that's what I'm going to say. We have a couple of community outreach programs going on at this time. We will be at the State Fair, which starts tomorrow. We'll have booths out there promoting personal preparedness and family preparedness kits. We are really heavily involved in the Alaska Shield exercise, which is coming up in March of 2014, which will be a large-scale earthquake celebrating the 50th anniversary of that event. The fire department is going to be very active in that. They have what we call a USAR, Urban Search and Rescue Team, which will be conducting drills out at the training center. What they have is a simulated rubble pile. Several USAR teams throughout the country are going to come up and participate in it. And I'm stealing your thunder when it's talking about. They'll also have a hazmat team. Will be performing some events during the Alaska Shield and possibly down in Kodiak as another large-scale event. Let's see, local hospitals are going to be participating in it, and let's see, the REOC will be doing a shelter operation. We did hire a new PIO, Michelle Torres is now on board. She's working with us. She'll be doing all the community outreach programs. She's updated our Facebook page already, and she will be taking over the Brown Bag Lunch. It's still going on. Next one next month. That's all I have.
Brown Bag Lunch topics, is it posted up on your?
Yeah, it's still posted up on the Facebook page and also on our website page. So there's several places to look at it.
Free and open to the public, right?
Right. Come on in. And it's over at the EP Learning Center. Just go on in, and it's free. Bring your lunch, sit down, and learn about whatever subject we're talking about that month.
You have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your report. Did I hear you say celebrating the 50th anniversary of the earthquake?
Celebrate probably the
No,
wrong
talk
word.
about saying remember.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, recognizing the 50th anniversary of the event.
I'll take a quick poll in the room. How many people were here in the '64 earthquake? Yeah, there's a few.
How many people were glad we weren't here?
Rocking and rolling. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate the information, the update, Ms. Torres. Look forward to maybe meeting and seeing with her at some point in the future. We've always appreciated the team's input. The question that I have is funding from emergency management, also emergency management. I know a large portion of that is grants. Are funding available, and is it sufficient for the organization for your operation?
No one ever has that one. Yeah, so we receive a majority of ours from federal grants, CDBG grants, stuff like that. But yeah, we fall right under the mayor's budget, so whatever they think that doesn't mean that's what the manager's usually budget. So whatever they think is that's how we do it.
And so
Small but we're efficient.
small but efficient. Very good. And we're coming up on obviously winter season and such. So
And we'll be coming out with talking about, of course, winter preparedness and gas problems that we have, natural gas shortages and stuff like that. So now those campaigns will be starting to get there shortly.
very good. Anything else? Okay. So OEM, Mr. Fitz, thank you so much. And I saw you walk in first. Chief, was you? Would you want to go first on the report?
Somebody stole all my thunder, that's right.
Well, I am interested though in the urban search and rescue team. You might want to. I don't know how much you can say. I know a lot of times these operations are tabletop, not really disclosed.
Yeah, they are mostly tabletop this time. They're actually going to be out working the rubble pile, which they really enjoy doing. Doesn't make much sense to me, but they like crawling in confined spaces and kind of concrete, doing that sort of thing.
search teams, like dog teams, for cadavers or trapped persons or anything like that?
We actually put this class open to anyone and everyone, as long as you met the criteria. I think for the most part, it's all local fire department, Matsu Valley, there's some folks that are from the airport, and that sort of thing. So mostly professional operations. I don't know that there are any volunteer agencies involved in
And when will this be in 2014?
March.
Yeah, end of March to April.
Anything else, Chief?
No, our academy is going well. We still have 11 people, and they're doing very well. And so far, so good.
And these will all be firefighters or some firefighter medics or, you know?
We have, I think, 4 who carry a paramedic certificate. So once they get done with their firefighter training, then we'll start them on the paramedic stuff.
Mr. Chairman, just actually for both the chiefs and both chief fire and police. So where are you at with the 2014 budget process? Is it done and the municipal manager's hands are done? We're supposed to get a preliminary document on September 1st. So
We've all made our presentations to the city manager and to the mayor. So I don't know if the mayor has given the final approval of all of this yet, but he's certainly heard from each of us.
Right, right. And just a heads up, and I haven't mentioned this to Paul yet, but you know what? The Assembly appropriates money for budgets every single year, and I'm really tired of department heads not being there like it used to be in the past to answer questions, you know, and I'm gonna make a big deal about it this year. So just, you know, a heads up, okay?
Thank you for the heads up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, I concur.
And I know it's not your issue, it's the mayor's issue, but anyway, thank you.
I concur. I think it's important to have input from the departments. If you justify the budget and it looks like it passes muster, if somebody, I don't want to hear what the municipal manager or the mayor has perspective on it. They're not the chief of the police or the fire or the emergency management. That's why they hire you guys. I had a question, Chief. I understand that the fire department is actually dispatching for the ASP. And prior to that, who was doing that?
They were self-dispatching, for lack of a better term. That was the person answering the phone and answering the phone and writing out the address and sending it out.
And so is this going to be a permanent thing, do you think?
If I had to guess, I would say it would be permanent. It just allows a little better coordination rather than ASP getting the call, and somebody calling 911, and the police getting the call, and we all end up showing up there at the same time. The whole purpose was to eliminate that.
So it actually is a good thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then the next question is, and I've heard, I don't know how recent, but that we're no longer, as an agency, responding code, red or green, to reports of people who are just like, they believe are visibly passed out. I mean, if they can't confirm a person's not living or breathing, that's a different story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we try to get enough information for us to cater the response to what the call is versus blindly sending out.
I hear both kinds. If we get unresponsive man down, can't tell what's up, we're still going code. But if somebody says intoxicated guy under the tree, he's sleeping, seems like he's drunk, then we're going code 2. Yeah.
Which I think is wise, because obviously not only the staff at risk, but then the other traveling motorists are at risk.
If we can tell it's an intoxicated drunk, street person, we go to. But if there's some possibility it could be somebody who shot, somebody had a heart attack, something like that, then we're going to go back.
Well, I'm hoping that we'll have Mrs. Vietmeyer here to talk a little bit about the transfer station and the vans available hours now. Apparently last night's appropriation, we hope they'll move quickly to get that. I'm not sure if that you have anything to do with that other than just the dispatching contract.
Are we on the ready yet?
No, not yet. We're still with the chief. I think we're not.
Oh, no, thank you.
Chief, anything? Oh, real quick, fire stations. I understand there are some that are still slated for rebuild or replace.
Yes, we have a station on Airport Heights right next to Regional Hospital. We'd like to try and rebuild it and or move it to a better location. And Fire Station 9, which is down in Huffman, the same thing as an old facility. We'd like to try and rebuild it and hopefully move it to a more strategic area with a maintenance consulting group here in town
deadlines on them?
We are with the Airport High Station, but total is no problem to get it reappropriated.
So, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, the review on fire stations that you just mentioned, is that part of the thing that's going on right now, the audit thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all the same.
Okay, so you're not gonna have a report until spring?
No, this coming Memorial Day.
Labor
It
Day?
could be Labor Day.
Yeah,
Labor
you
Day,
said
I'm sorry.
Memorial Day.
I said
What's
Memorial
that?
Day, I did.
Yeah,
Labor Day.
okay, thanks.
Soon, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Better.
Chief Mew, and we had a couple of agenda items, but I guess I missed to ask on Academy is, I think we're still on tap for the Academy.
Yes, I'm going through the files, the DCs and I are going through the files right now, making the hiring decisions. Probably 21 people in the academy if we hire everybody that's in the file, that has a file.
Open for 28?
I'm being told, I haven't gone through and counted each file yet, but I'm told that there's 21 in there, and that's all we're gonna get.
When will the Academy start?
November 4th, I believe.
We have funding for equipment and, I guess, training time stuff and all that. It's towards the end of the year, so you probably,
Yes, it's there. We're okay, and we programmed for it in next year's budget as well.
ammunition. I know that worldwide, I guess, there's some issue about getting enough ammunition.
We have enough, but we have enough right now to get an academy started, maybe even completed. And the training center knows that it has to get ready for an academy next year as well. And I think the way, we're not having so much trouble getting it. It's just that we can't get it in the quantities we want, so we make repeated small orders is what it amounts to. We're just always ordering a little bit constantly. You can't go out and say, I want enough for a year and make it one purchase. You just order whatever you get your hands on every month.
I understand it's really in high demand, and so the supply is limited. Okay, well, and Mr. Train has joined us.
Sorry, Mike.
No worries, sir.
I got here in a hurry though.
And one,
So we're interested in two programs. One, the Assembly sponsored changes recently to the bar safety hour. And I know you and the municipal manager went out, I guess, the first weekend. And I know it's fairly new, but I was wondering if you could give us an assessment on whether or not, first of all, I think there's only two maybe, or more.
There were two on Friday. I'm a little bit behind on today's email, so I haven't seen if any new ones have come through yet or not, but I'm hoping to see some more this week. The Gaslight and the Pioneer both put in and were approved, and they were operational Friday and Saturday nights. I was out Friday night, Saturday morning. I did not come out Saturday night, Sunday morning, so I can give you my impressions of the first night, but not of the second night. My impressions, first night was a Gaslight. The customers didn't really understand the program had changed, and so when the lights went up, they all left, and the place emptied out.
We're right out the door.
They were right out the door. And the manager thought, well, they're out. I don't feel like bringing them back in. So it just kind of went its own way. Over at Pioneer, most of the people left, but not all. There's probably a dozen people around in there drinking sodas, and lights were up, and everything seemed fine in there. Frankly, at that point in time, I had phone calls in one ear about the fatality in the Daily News in there as well, and so I spent more time dealing with that than I really did scoping out what was going on inside. But it was quiet. I could talk on the phone, and people seemed to be doing just fine. So it seems to me that if we could decide anything based on one night, which we probably can't, is that it's going to take a little while for customers to understand the rules have changed and that they have an option that they didn't have before. And it may also be that it becomes more useful to them in the winter than in the summer. I suppose it's also a possibility, but right now that's just speculation on my part.
Mr. Train?
That's what I wrote down, weather. I think as we start to get colder, it's gonna be more bars that want to try and do this as an avenue for their clients to get up going in the cold. We'll see. I'm sure Crew Charlie's may have tried to do it too, because they're a restaurant. I don't think they have to apply for the safety hours, so.
Yeah, if they've got a restaurant designation, then
let us know, Sylvia, when we have these meetings, how it's going for the restaurant.
Well, I've got her listed. I've got her listed.
Thank you.
I have it listed as being.
Oh,
able to give
sure,
us-
it's listed, so
from
we've
this
got time.
From this
Sylvia.
perspective, so I have you listed. So Chief, Chief, we look forward to hearing, particularly if there's any challenges. I know there was concern by the industry when we were doing the work sessions on enforcement. I know that you had briefed and committed that a lot of the first couple of weekends, maybe a month or so, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, would be more education, information, and
We've
Enforcing, but
briefed
more.
patrol, and I sent Sylvia a letter, and the ABC board has reviewed that, and their CC, they've agreed. So we're trying to get everybody to understand the same rules of engagement. We're not going to be issuing, we'll be given warnings for the first 2 months. And that's in cases where if we should find a customer who's probably hidden a drink and he or she's sipping a drink after the lights are up, we will work with the bar, probably let the person out the door, or whatever we decide to do, take the drink away, whatever we work out, note it as a, something to keep an eye on sort of thing. We won't be issuing cites for that. If, and I don't expect to see this, frankly, but if we were to walk into a bar and it's 3:15 and the bartender's pouring beer and the cash register's working and they're serving alcohol, we don't give warnings on that. So, but I don't think that's the problem. I think everybody knows how to stop serving alcohol at 3 o'clock. They've been doing it forever. I think the worry is people that sneak drinks in or hide a drink someplace and then continue to try and sip them afterwards. And we're going to be reasonable about that. We're not on some kind of jihad. So everything's any violation or any potential problem, I should say, I won't call it a violation, any potential problem, we're going to write a report on it, whether it's a warning or whether it eventually results in a citation. All those will be documented, so we'll be able to collect the data and be able to compile it and say, are there any trends that we need to pay attention to? There is no fine or anything associated with a violation of this ordinance. It just goes to, we issue a civil cite, it goes to the hearings officer, and if I understand it right, if the hearings officer sustains the citation, then the city clerk can decide whether or not they want to pull the permission to have the safety hour. That's what would result in that. So the peril that they endure is only that they would just lose the ability to do it. If we felt there was a problem, that the hearings officer and the clerk felt that there was a problem that couldn't be corrected. I don't think there's anything that necessarily says one violation you're done, one and done. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but we'll see how that plays out. That will be up to the city clerk and the hearings officer, not me. Although you'd be out there, okay?
Another new program then. Another new program on the citizens involved in, for lack of better terms, the ready, reporting every dangerous driver immediately. Our version, if you will, let's say as a city. Can you give us a brief report on that and maybe just explain briefly what that is?
Well, we felt we're up to 5 fatalities now. I mean, as everybody knows, we've got them down from 20 alcohol-related fatality crashes to 1 over a 10-year period of time. We went 14 months without anybody getting killed. enough and urgent enough. We felt we had to do something big and do it fast and do it strong. And our staffing is down right now, everybody knows that, so we went to volunteers. It took, it was a hastily put together process. A lot of people came to our aid. Char has been very willing to work with us. I know that the ADEC has been wanting to get involved in getting businesses involved in helping us with quality of life issues. So I asked them if they could try and do something real with that. And they went out and contacted Tesoro and Flint Hills and others to try and get enough fuel commitments to take the sting out of the bill for the volunteers, not for the APD. We don't solicit money. We're not asking for money for us. And that started to roll in. Don't know if there'll be enough to defray all the costs and for how long the companies will be willing to do it. But right now we're having good support from the business community, and we want to continue to grow that a little bit, let the citizens and the businesses of our town help be part of the solution. So it really is a community policing project. We went to the Citizens Academy folks because we know them, we've already vetted them, we've already educated them on how we work, so we have some relationship with them and some reason to know that they're a reliable and knowledgeable group of people. We've given them extra training that we put on that week. We've given them their rules of engagement. 45 of them signed up in a matter of a couple, 3 days. And 10 more, I think, signed up since last weekend. We're going to have to put on another class. And it's going to take us a while to figure out how many volunteers do we really need at any given night. You know, we might be doing too much, actually. We could have too many volunteers out, and we would be wasting their time and bogging down the overtime officers that we put out there. So, you know, we're gonna tweak that over time. They called in, I want to say a dozen or so. We're going to be publishing the stats, so right now I might be off just a little bit on this, but they called in roughly a dozen calls the first night. Only one of those resulted in an OUI arrest. So they're still learning. And so we'll work with them more on that. Not all the calls were allegedly intoxicated drivers either. They reported they found a victim of an assault. You know, there's other things that they see that are wrong that they report. But that night we arrested a dozen DWI offenders. One was downtown, called in by a bar. Guy was slumped over the wheel. This was the only difference between this and Detlef Wolf was the guy pulled out his middle finger instead of pulling out his gun. But he was asleep. We put in a tight pin. Cops approached on both sides. Took a lot of knocking to
gentleman that you found with the gun, was the gun immediately confiscated for the city to possess it and then sell it, transfer it back out? Because he had a gun and was drunk at the time we picked him up, are we gonna process that gun for confiscation over the city?
I don't know.
Because I'll get with Wheeler and see if we can write some legislation. Because no one can accuse me of being anti-gun, I have arsenal.
Yes,
But,
I own a few myself.
I know you do, but if I find somebody that's drunk, obviously intoxicated, I don't want him to have a gun, period.
He was carrying a gun and 2 extra magazines.
So I'll get with Wheeler, and he'll hear us coming down with proposed legislation, it's not illegal, it should be.
My guess is, this is just a guess, I didn't follow up and pull the report, but he probably went to jail for either OUI or refusal to take a breath test, and probably drunk in possession of a firearm.
I'll check with Wheeler on that. Thank you, Chief.
Probably not telling the officer he was armed. Ms. Quigley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did you happen to see my email last week on the ready folks?
I saw an email from you that said you weren't going to be able to make the...
Right, and I talked about the possibility of a work session, to talk about the
Okay.
program with all the assembly members and to give folks an opportunity to get information other than reading about it in the paper. And then ask questions. I just think it's such an important subject and I'm really glad to see it. So thank you, but I would like to see the whole body in a work session to give an overview on the program, an update, and be able to ask questions. You have an issue with that?
No, that's fine. I suggest we give it a couple more weeks so that we work some
Okay.
kinks out,
Oh, yeah.
got some data trends that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of it's, we're just speculating about where we might go, and we're kind of learning as we go. And, this program will get better, I think.
Right, and I'm even thinking maybe, a couple of months out, but just, I just think it's important. So, thank you.
And the chief, and I know I was there on a different capacity since part of Citizen Academy coordinator and such, but is it possible that when the next time you have training to let us know so in case some of us want to go and just set in and watch?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating.
I'll tell you also, we're starting to get our minds around this. It's been a busy week because we're trying to hire our academy and we're trying to make promotions. So we've been in a lot of interviews, and we're trying to hire our fiscal manager. So we've been in interviews like crazy, and that's really eaten into our ability to sit around and plan. But there are a lot of folks right now that we have their attention, and I'm hearing from legislators and others, saying, "What do you need? Tell me. I don't want this moment to pass." So we're starting to put together possible legislative ideas. We'll vet these through Shalon and the mayor's office and others, and I don't know how many will survive. I don't even know how many were good ideas and maybe stupid ideas at this point. But we're just trying to collect up thoughts of what else can we be doing that could be helpful. And maybe there could be state grants next year that won't come in time for us now that would help fund the volunteer programs that maybe the state would fund the years for the gasoline or other expenses associated with the program, not the APU necessarily, but the citizens piece of it. I am a little concerned that we're going to burn our volunteers out, and they'll get tired of putting the bill for their own fuel, and then after the business make the donations, it was interest. So keeping that whole thing going, keeping it alive, keeping the enthusiasm up, and over the course of time, I think will be a challenge for us. And we're going to have to work on that.
All right, anything else, chief?
Oh, you asked me some other questions, so I don't know if you wanted to
Last night, if you've got anything that you can snapshot, it's great. Otherwise, I suppose we can get it from you offline. It doesn't matter. Concern was, what was it? Let me see here, the map.
Well, here, I thought you wanted me to talk about drug transport and CXP.
Oh, yes, yes.
These are statistics and trends associated with just APDs. Part of the picture. As you know, I guess we don't call it CFP anymore, but
ASP.
Apologies. I lapsed into the old language. They pick up about a third of the intoxicated people, fire picks up about a third, we pick up about a third. That's probably those relationships that maybe adjust a little bit over time, but rule of thumb is we each take up 33% of it. I don't know if you have time to walk through these right now. I frankly haven't studied them at length yet, but they are relatively self-explanatory. Shows you what we have been doing, and most of it is in the last year, some of it is July. There's July snapshots, and then there's the year in general. And you can see time of day, day of week, location around town, things like that. So, as I say, this is just the APD. This is not the entire picture. This is 33.3% of the entire picture. And you asked about last night about our budget, where we are in burn rate. This is a report that we produce monthly. This is as of August 19th. And you will see Fund 151 on the first page, Fund 101 on the second page, and the two combined on the third page. The number we control, really the one I look at the most, is total direct labor, the far right column, halfway down on the front page. A lot of our expenses, as you guys know, is really not discretionary on our part, and there's not much we can do to control it. The way you read this, you've got 2012 budget and actuals, 2013 budget and actuals. You've got the percentage through the year that we are now, and then based on that, what our projection is for the end of the year. So right now, we're projecting a labor excess of $2,142,000. Now, there are those that don't like me to say this, but I've got some emergencies right now, and I'm spending some overtime to address them.
Well, 125% on overtime from my phone.
Pardon?
You're about spending, 125% of overtime so far this year?
I don't know. I haven't gotten to look. My guess is, flying by my guts here, that we probably already overspent our overtime budget. But we've got $2 million in change in unused labor that we're going to roll to the fund balance. So I might eat into that just a little bit in order to keep, for instance, this citizens OUI patrol going.
Let us know how we can support you, because we've still got another $2 million, I think, coming in tobacco, and I think it's settled, or $1 million coming in on the tobacco issue. I'd much rather put that in public safety.
I don't know how soon that's going to arrive, but
I don't know, but I intend to find out.
But anyway, so right now, we're projecting to have a relatively high surplus. Last year we didn't have this surplus. Last year we came in almost broke even. The 3 years before that, we returned surplus anywhere from $2 to $4 million. So it's not unusual for us, fortunately or unfortunately, to have money left in our labor line. And that's partly how we get by with not having much in our overtime budget, is we know that unfortunately we'll have excess in from vacancies essentially in the budget. So that's the rest of the chart is probably self-explanatory. You can see that we're 63% through the year, and you can look down there and say, but we're 61% through the money, or 62% through the money. So pretty close. There's some places where we're low and we're under. I mean, we've burned up too much. Okay, overtime. I was telling you, my guts say we've burned it up. Well, yeah, we've got on the whole $66,000. So, but the bottom line balances.
And Chief, I think that was the biggest concern, is that I do know that there's vacant positions, and I do know that you're trying to get an academy, which isn't here yet. And my concern is, we're seeing budget actuals now. My concern is that some of these numbers, the old vacancy factor, I know that that's built into everybody's budget, because in a year's clock, you're not going to have 100% staffing 365, 24/7. Some people retire, die, quit, get fired, whatever. But my concern is that, we're looking, like you say, glide path with plenty of people vacant-wise, but the numbers aren't showing it. And that was why I was trying to check, because I don't know. Frankly, that's why we have a budget analyst too, because we're trying to see if we can
The
sort
vacancy factor has been handled give us a budget, and if they tell us to manage it as best they can, and then through the year, at some point they say, we're in a bind, we'd really like you to try and hold open X amount and lapse it back into the budget. That's easy to do. I don't mind doing that. The tougher equation, which sometimes we've had to deal with, is at the beginning of the year when they say, we think you can anticipate having X amount left over, therefore we're going to dock you that amount on January 1, and you deal with it, and you better, then you're sitting there going, I hope my people quit, and we don't prefer that model. Okay, we're not dealing with that model right now.
That's it. So I thank you for the update, and I appreciate it, and particularly on the junk transports. It's my hope that it was a unanimous vote, by the way. I was very surprised. And I'm sorry that someone from HHS isn't here to talk about it.
That was the message sent to the mayor last night by the entire body, because we were told he was going to try and veto it. So that's the reason we got 11 votes last night. He vetoes it, we're still going to override about that issue. Because we want CSP to get out there picking these trucks up. We don't want police officers to have to spend their time on this other jobs you guys have to do. We want CSP to be out there again. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, did I hear you say that you plan on using some of your projected surplus back right now?
Oh, I think it's fair to say I am already. I mean, there's a reason why we're able to operate, even though this thing here tells you that we're $66,000 in the hole on overtime.
But, and I don't want you to explain it, I just mentioned it because I want to say, I'm glad that you are. Because it just makes sense to me. It's nice to have money left over, but if you need it now for a purpose, in terms of public safety, then you need to go forward with it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? Okay. Chief, thanks so much. Now, we have Ms. Villamidis, I think it's charged, perhaps someone from the Downtown Bar Owners Association. If you want, come join us at the table. We'd like to hear from your perspective, of course, the new bar safety hour and other challenges that you may see, and perhaps maybe some solutions.
My name is Sylvia, the director of Breakfast Choice.
I'm John Patty. I own the Gaslight Bar downtown. So I could talk about the kind of my perspective of the safety hour. Being new, and this was our first weekend, so we have a little bit of a learning curve. Chief Mew was right. Most of the people just left. We stopped serving at our normal time that we would do anyway. Lights came up. We asked people to finish their last drinks, and they all did that. And by 3 o'clock, we had maybe 5 people left in the bar, so a lot of people standing out front. The in and out wasn't a lot. Didn't have a lot of return entry either. A handful. By about 3:30, 3:20 to 3:30, most of the crowd outside had dispersed as it normally does, and we closed up and did our finishing cleaning and closing procedures and went home. But I think it just takes some time for these customers to learn that. I don't think that, and I've said this all along, they don't really have an incentive to stay in the bar when we're telling them to guzzle down that last drink or finish that last purchased drink. They're doing that, and the lights come on, and they go outside, so I still think that's a good idea to allow that legally purchased drink for them to finish. We want to help create that trickle effect. But other than that, if if it helps 5 or 6 people a night, that's a good thing. So I'm surprisingly happy the way it turned out for the first weekend. We didn't have any problems. We had a DUI stop out front on Saturday night, and about 3:20, and the officers asked, and there were still some people out there, and the officers asked if they could do the field sobriety test inside the bar. So we let them do that. That was kind of
Lots of light, dry.
Oh, it had some nice flat straight lines on the floor. So yeah.
No rain?
Yeah, no rain. So it was good. So that was good. And we're happy to do that. So. But I think we just keep it going, and we'll learn as we move forward. the whole idea is to get that triple effect, and if there's anything we can do to help, produce that, give the incentive to do that, I think it's a good thing.
Mr. Trainer, just thank you for participating in this. You're the forefront of this, and we really appreciate it. And the police department wants to work with you. As you heard the chief, he's not going to write tickets to everybody they see. So we appreciate the city trying to work with the private industry to make this thing successful.
And that's
Thank
what
you.
I was going to say. I want to thank you for helping us with the changes that you made to the ordinance in regards to the regulations, the part of the fees. We appreciate that. And you, Chief, thank you so much for coming through and getting that letter done so I was able to send it out to the industry and also just adjust some of the safety elements around does and what it entails. I'm explaining to all the licensees that if you have a restaurant designation, you don't have to go to the municipal clerk's office. However, you do have to stop. If you go to the municipal clerk's office, then you don't have to serve. So I'm making that very clear to everyone so that they have the understanding of why they want it and how they want to proceed. And to get when they get busy and to get them to send me an email saying I'm participating, I'm working on that. Very much so. And for John and the Pioneer and some others to be the first to participate, I'm very happy to see that as well. So thank you.
I just had a question, perhaps Mr. T and also from others. We talked about like serving sodas or perhaps, I don't know, popcorn or perhaps some chips or something. I don't know how much of a mess or expense you want to go to, whether it be quote unquote on the house or whether one had to pay something to be able to participate. Do you think that might be an incentive?
Well,
or
we
something?
left I have 5 stations, and we left one station open for selling water or Red Bull or soda or something like that. But, we only have 5 people in the place, so I think over the 2 days, we sold 2, 3 drinks, non-alcoholic drinks after closing, so it's just a matter of training and changing people's attitudes, that's going to be the key, the incentive. And but yeah, we're leaving somebody available for them to buy or have something. And usually, if we have a customer and they want a cup of coffee or something, we don't charge them, or a bottle of water. We're not trying to make money off of the thing. So, if there's 100 people in there ordering, we'll probably start charging them. But if there's just a customer in there that's waiting for a cab and wants a cup of coffee, that's kind of the nature of the bar business anyway. Has been for the 30 years I've been doing it. So, yeah, you take care of your customers.
I look forward to seeing some success and hopefully it grows a bit so we can really get the full experience and find
Well,
out.
it works in other cities. Not exactly like this, but it works. So, just gotta let the people know.
And then I'd asked Mr. Trainee to give us a brief update on where we're at with the tax cap ordinance, and I do know that there's...
We're writing a draft on the taxi cab ordinance to be available at our next meeting. I think it's our next one, the 18th.
Yes, I believe.
I'll have a draft out to everybody by that date. It's still in rewrite right now, but I think we'll have something that's workable for the entire industry and the consumers. So I'm looking forward to giving it to everybody. We'll have copies here at that meeting.
Wednesday, September 18th is the
I'll
next.
have it here. And then it's supposed to be in front of the assembly by the 24th. I have to present it to the assembly on that day.
Mr. Musser, I know you take a time out of your day. Is there anything that you need to share or would like to share with in the process for the commission? Any suggestions? Apparently, you guys are all working together with Mr. Gates from Municipal Legal on perhaps changes and drafts of the ordinances. Any update that you know?
No, I don't have a current update. I only know the draft was submitted, and I know that Mr. Train is working on it. Here. We, like everybody else, would like the opportunity to show input.
Well, I'd like to make a pitch since I got a captive audience with some of the folks in the industry on both sides. I would like to find out, and I haven't seen the taxi cab stands of the loading zones that are already signed, and they were supposed to have changed those and included those as tax tips. And has that been done? Has anybody seen? Because I have not spotted something.
I talked to the city,
place to put it without having one.
So we're working on that. I'll have it shed in the 18th.
Right, so between us, we'll make sure that we follow up with transportation, traffic engineering, and make sure that those signs are up. I was assured by the municipal manager over a month ago that they were on it, and they would be soon. So I will, you recall, we tried this last summer, and it didn't take place. So, still frustrated by that. We'll work through it. And so this, continue to please help sponsor the off-the-road program. I know that's gonna be a challenge, at least until we get those signs up there. And if the safety hour helps to cabs to drop off their fares and come back, I suppose I would say, let us know if that's actually helping, because it'll be very helpful for us to, I don't know how we're gonna do it statistically. Perhaps, I don't know, the industry, bar industry can say, it helped, or maybe the cab industry can help us tell us how many times that they were able to loop back, pick up repeat customer, or multiple customers in that regard, and it helped. And again, I think weather changing, even with the rain, a lot of people don't like standing around getting rained on. Definitely don't like to stand out getting a lot cold, so.
Can may I say something?
Yes, please.
I want to thank you for putting us along in the community effort for the READY program. John Petit is so involved with it that he kind of suggested something to me just a few minutes ago, and I'd like to tell you about it.
Well, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but you were talking about keeping that momentum going for the READY program and possible funding sources and things like that, and, maybe, an organization like Acres Chart might be willing to come to the table and help you with that, not managing it, but, it may not be appropriate at all. It's just an idea, as you were talking about having some challenges and some concerns keeping it going, and maybe it's something that Acres Charter might be willing to manage.
I know that Jen wants to talk to you guys. We've just been swamped, that's all. We'd like to close the loop, get back with you, and maybe talk about stuff that promotional items or printing or things we could do that could be in the bars to help remind people while they're drinking to not go out and kill people and go home in a cab and do other things,
Well, we had a program, it might have been when we were meeting regulars with the downtown, and meeting Star, it's a simple kind of a reminder, but it was signs that we put on our restroom doors, on the inside of the stalls, and on the walls in the men's and women's rooms, and they were just simple messages, real quick, simple messages, for instance, one of them, that we put in the men's room, if you think waking up with a hangover is bad, think about, what if you woke up as a rapist or something like that. So you put these little messages in there, and, no means no, and these separate messages that are appropriate for women in the women's stall. And we can put some ready signs up there so that people are, when they're in there and they're in a quiet area, that they're reminded that there's people on the street that'll call you in, and if you're driving dangerously or drunk.
I think we've probably got a lot of room where we could work on that. And I know right now, our people are a little bit short-staffed, so we have some people on leave this week, but when the dust settles on this, we get back to even keel. I know the people in my communications section are gonna wanna talk to you guys and work up some ideas, get creative, and figure out what we can do together on along the line.
And in the meantime, I spoke to the distributors, and they're willing to help with the regular.
Okay, great, because we may need that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And
They've been really good to work with.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just heartened by the whole collaborative effort. I mean, I see industries I know there's been some issues over whether, chicken and the egg when it comes to taxi cabs and bars, and there's been a lot of cross communication and sometimes cross workings. But frankly, I think at the end of the day, we all want the same thing: it's a safe public and good transportation options. And of course, that includes accommodating parking and stopping spaces. And of course, there's some issues that the taxi cab industry has had for years that need to be addressed as well, including rates and fares and things like that. So there's a lot of ideas floating around, and we're doing our best to capture it, and we're picturing the funnel that's coming in and it's getting narrowed down. And we apologize for the delay in making the sausage. It's not always a pretty thing, but we'll hope to have a great product.
That phone call that came in is somebody just shot at an officer.
Okay.
So I gotta step out here and take
Yes,
it.
please do.
He's not dead, but we got some
Yeah,
for
Ms. Gomez, can you just briefly give us the homeless camp cleanup challenges? I know you and I talked briefly about. Just briefly give us a challenge.
Joshua, he attended the T-BOP meetings and the reports that he gives there. And most of you probably remember my boys since they were very, very little, in police academy and all of that, yeah. So, he reports, what he's doing and what he's finding, and he's opening his eyes to what's really out there. And he talks about, and remember, ARBRA is not only cleaning the homeless camps, the illegal camps, we are also cleaning what is visual to the public, like around the liquor stores, package stores, wherever there's bus stops that we go and we clean where the homeless leave all their junk behind, so we pick it up. And it's been, he's got his spots where he knows he goes to 3 times a week, and then there's times that he goes to some places, even to clean the stairs. If you go down A Street, the stairs that go up, we clean those stairs, which was in Winchester Park. He cleans those stairs. So there's many places where ARBRA goes in. After APD posts a 15-day notice, then ARBRA comes in and we clean the camps, and then we leave the trash on the side, and then community work service, they come in and they pick up the garbage and they haul it to the dump. So in the last 4 months, ARBRA has put in about 450 hours of work.
You were telling me you had some challenges on getting enough volunteers. How would someone want, if they want to participate, volunteer, or?
They can call our office, and we can schedule it. Mainly on Mondays and on Thursdays, when Joshua looks out to the illegal camps, because we have a list of where we go. And the one that you sent to us, that's on our schedule as well. But they can call our office, and normally it's like at 8:30 in the morning until about 3:30 in the afternoon. And then, we buy them pizza and soda and water for lunch, and then continue working. So, and during the rest of the week, we just do the visual stuff in the community.
Well, thank you. And if there's anything we can do to try to help promote or sponsor volunteers, or any help, I know that you use community work service volunteers, people who are working off, I guess, restitution, state, community work service, things like that. And
It's
others.
appreciated.
So we'll do what we can to help there. I think it's a great deal. And if they'd add Northern Lights to the new sewer right by the DeSoto station,
I know
the
we
wall.
have it.
We saw it the other day.
Couple of things. Okay, ARBRA has been involved with T-BOP since its inception. I'm one of the founders, frankly. Anyway, and they've been absolutely wonderful. It's been just beside himself. I just love working with him. And now Josh is there. He's extremely great too. So he's really doing a wonderful job. I'm glad. And I just want to mention, because Sylvia hasn't, that ARBRA has a fundraiser every year, and this year it's going to be in November, Sylvia? And and I encourage folks to, if you can't make it, to donate, because they do such a wonderful job on behalf of our community, and it's volunteers, and they need money to help them continue to do the job that they're doing. So I just wanted to mention that I'm a big supporter of ARBRA, and I thank you.
What's the name of that
Thank
one?
you, Mr. Chairman.
What we do is we have a wine tasting, and every year we choose a different, and normally it's been a toast to ARBRA, is what we usually call it. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. And Ms. Craig Jackson had made a point. A lot of you folks have taken time out of your day to be here. If there's, we could accommodate a few moments for comments or suggestions, particularly when it comes to taxi commission and the challenges and changes that were coming forth on the ordinance. So the Ransoms are here. I know Ms. Taylor Smith's here. Other people that may be interested, please join us.
I just wanted to mention, I don't usually go downtown, but my husband worked nights during June and July, and about a week ago, we went through, I think it was on the weekend, I can't remember what day, but it was a very busy day, it was a warm day, so everybody was out. And we started down Ford, going west, and between past D Street or whatever, but anyway, going past, we saw 4 different altercations of young men yelling and screaming at each other, getting
there was discussed at one of the meetings at Downtown Partnership about 2 months back, maybe 3 months back, and there was some discussion on, there are safety ambassadors and maintenance ambassadors for Downtown Partnership, but I think their hours, I think they're done by 10 p.m. or maybe 11, 9 o'clock. And so we're trying to work with them. I know I'm making suggestions, particularly in the summer months on the weekends around holidays, that they can maybe perhaps extend or offer, for lack of better terms, overtime maybe for that. And also I think the chief was, and representatives from the department were there, that if there was some funding available, that perhaps they could allow that to happen if it were downtown wide and not like in front of this location or in front of this business only. I mean, it has to be the region of downtown. Is that correct, Chief?
Well, yeah, I mean, here's my thoughts on it for what they're worth, and they're just my thoughts. This is not the official position of the municipality. But, you know, take Town Square, for instance. We've got a lot of hooligans hanging out in Town Square all summer long. We put officers in there like crazy this year, and we took that out of our pocket. And I think that's a legitimate thing to do, because those people show up, they're a problem, but they just show up spontaneously. There's not somebody hosting an event and bringing them in and making money on them. Okay, so I think it's appropriate for tax dollars to go to police up that project. Now, when you're looking at bar break, the people, or the hours leading up to it, the people are down there because they want to go and enjoy themselves and go in these bars, and they want to drink and they want to have a good time. And the bars are making money off of that. So that creates a situation. And I'm not weighing in on that situation. I'm just saying that's what it is. And we have noticed that when we go down there in force, things usually go better. We can sort of keep a lid on things. Usually, there have been times that we paid overtime, like solstice night. You know, we could see that thing was getting bigger than we realized it was going to be, and I put a whole bunch of cops on overtime down there. We had a lot of people out this last weekend because we're paying overtime for this DWI thing, and before it really started producing any numbers, those guys went downtown because they're always looking for something to do. And so there's lots of cops downtown. I mean, I think we had 6 or 8 on foot patrol, just waiting to get a call from the citizens and hop in their cars and go away. So when that happens, we hear from the bouncers, guys, this is great to see you guys down here. Everything goes better when you're here. You know, I usually hear from the mayor's office that, we got 3 calls from bars saying thanks a lot for having the cops out. You know, so we know it's helpful for us when we go out and have uniforms wandering around. It's helpful for the bars, it's helpful for the clients. But I think that probably ought to be paid for by the bars or by their clients, because the people who don't go down there, who are just taxpayers, but they're not into the downtown nightlife, they're the ones footing the bill if I put cops on overtime down there. So I see a difference between that and the Town Square analogy. And one I think is appropriate for tax dollars, the other maybe is more of a user fee, and so that's where I'm having trouble, particularly when I'm exceeding my overtime budget and trying to figure out how to get by. It's hard for me to put people down there. I don't want to see people get hurt. I want to be able to suppress crime, but I think the participation of the businesses that are making money on that clientele could be helpful. And so, but the flip side of that is several of the bar owners do want to do that, and some of them want to actually buy a cop and put him right there, and that's our guy. And I'm worried about that relationship, because then if the officer sees something across the street, or he leaves for a while to do a problem down the road, the guy says, hey, I'm paying the bill, I want you back here, you're working for me. You know, and I don't want to put the cop in a position where he's wondering who he answers to or who she answers to. So I think it would be better if, for instance, let's say the bars decide they're each going to pay an extra $50 a night or whatever it is, and they give it to the Downtown Partnership, and the Downtown Partnership just does a grant, and we buy 2 cops for Friday night and 2 cops for Saturday, or 4 and 4, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. We're going to have to work it out, put a thing on, cost it out, see what the businesses would be willing to do. That might be a cleaner model, and it would help me feel better about putting officers on overtime when it affects only a particular small subset of businesses in town and is being paid for by tax dollars. So, I don't know, that's just my idea.
Does that jive with what, I've not been hearing some of that conversation.
I just want to address the budgeting aspect. I think we all pay for licensing. That licensing money goes to the ABC board. The ABC board in turn turns around and funds each locality based on the number of licensees in that area. So really, that's what that money's for, is for policing and investigating Title IV issues, which are alcohol-related issues. That's what that money's supposed to be used for. And what happens with all budgets is it becomes part of the general fund, and you don't see it directed to that. So we kind of look at it as we are paying for that, and I'm sorry that there's not enough to do more of it. And I also always question, why is it always overtime? Why can't it just be budgeted, scheduled labor, as we would in business?
So that, he raises a good point, two good points. One is, if I saw that money as those license fees, if it came back to me for alcohol enforcement, went into my budget as a budget line, that says, here's your budget for this work, and I could bill against it, that might go a long way to fix this problem.
I'm on a committee that working on some of those issues, and I'll bring that up. Okay.
And then you get a one-for-one on that. You know, if I get $100,000 a year, and I think that's about what it is, I know I can buy so many hours of enforcement that
That
go
would be
through that.
great, yeah.
Okay, that's
See
the
it
first
that
thing.
way.
The second thing is, we got nights when we got like less than 20 people in the squad room for this entire city. I don't have extra bodies to just put them on the roster for going downtown. I mean, everybody knows when they have if you're working North Sector, if you got some free time, you know, downtown's where you go. But who's got free time anymore? You know, the calls for service isn't changing, and our numbers are dwindling. You know, when I first started here, we had over 30, usually 28 to 32 officers in Fallout on any shift. And we're down, you know, sometimes 23, sometimes 25, but there's nights when we're looking at 20, 19. When we get down there, there's not any extra for anybody. So schedule on straight time right now is problematic. If we get over this curve, we're going to lose a lot more people before January 1, and then that'll be rock bottom. And then we're going to go back and do building time again. But it's going to take us, even if everything went my way, and it won't, it'd still be 2 or 3 years before we get it built back up to the place where we have that kind of staffing. And so what that means is, in the meantime, it's overtime. It's bringing in somebody in on his or her day off in order to get the numbers up.
And figuring out a funding source. So, Mr. Trainer?
That's the same problem with the taxi cab industry. When I look at all the money that comes in for taxi cabs, it goes to general fund. They bring all this money, but you think you've only got a half-time transportation inspector out there. We need to have 2 full-time people doing it. Same thing happens across the city. When the money comes up from the different pots, it goes to the general fund. It never gets reallocated to where it needs to go.
I might be wrong about this, so take this with a grain of salt. I think the situation is it does come to our budget, but it just offsets the salary line. It doesn't come in a special thing that says, okay, here's some bar enforcement money, here's some money to go deal with downtown and Bartlett. It's not sitting in its own.
It's not dedicated funding for that. It does go to your budget.
Right.
But it's not dedicated for that specific
So
purpose.
if I need this year to make my budget, we budgeted $91 million in salaries. So if 100,000 comes in, that 91 million is going to get docked. It's going to be part of that 91 million. In other words, the taxpayer will pay $100,000 less, and that $100,000 in license fees will go into that 91 million. It basically just keeps the tax burden lower. It doesn't show up as extra money that I can devote for a special project. And unfortunately, the legislative statute does not require the city to do any particular
So, I do not see a problem in us getting involved in helping with the money funding that we need for the extra supervision. However, the owners, most of the licensees, they own their properties, they're already paying, a big lump sum extra to the downtown partnership for the youth.
So that's what we were trying to address with, I think it was Mr. Coffey and perhaps Mr. Schutte. I don't know. There was some discussion several months back at a table, and I think there was some approach that maybe perhaps this could happen. So
And I spoke, I'm on the board for the downtown partnership, and I'm the operations chair. I oversee safety and cleanup. So I do have it on my agenda on September 3rd, to talk to Chris about it. So we'll start discussion on how we're going to proceed with this. I know Dr. Miller has been talking to Chris as well.
So if I might, just closing for this, so we can move on. I'm not to cut you down and shut you down off here, but we'll have a meeting downtown at 2 o'clock. If, when you're discussing that, perhaps at least looking at it through the summer months and maybe perhaps any large holidays or something. Because I think that's when the majority of the problems, if I'm not mistaken, are starting to crop up. Summer months, weekends, holidays, things like that. And then Ms. Smith on
Mine's really quick, but I want to thank you for the bars that are participating with me in the safety hour program. I think it will make a big difference for the community as a whole, for our industry. The one thing I think we're missing though is we need information of who is signing up for those, because I didn't even know it was really even starting last weekend, and I'm not sure that the dispatchers were aware or anything to get the word out to drivers to, migrate to those facilities or near those facilities, that kind of thing. So I think we need some, definitely some communication to know which bars or restaurants, if they're classifying themselves as a restaurant, are participating, so we can make sure to educate our drivers. That's the one thing. And then the other thing is, Chief Mew, if there is some sort of, the ready program that you guys have, are you training, is there a training session or something that we could maybe get the word out for drivers to
That was
know?
a suggestion that Mr. Cheney made just moments ago.
Okay. Thank you.
And so I thought maybe you and I could talk about that. If you think the industry is interested in helping, I don't see any reason why we couldn't put a class together. I mean, we're going to be putting one together for volunteers and probably do several of them.
I think she would give us more eyes on the street, which is what we're looking for.
So, thank you.
The number you need is 343-4311. Ask for Anna. She's the clerk that handles the safety hour. She can tell you exactly how many bars are participating.
Okay, great.
If somebody can, perhaps from the industry, can disseminate that for us, that would be helpful. I don't know how to, otherwise maybe perhaps there's a transportation inspector that can get a word out to all the people licensed, I don't know. But just so you guys would know who's participating so that you can expect at least another hour in case something happens where you're trying to, we want to make it successful, whatever it means.
And we did call the dispatch office.
Okay, I'd like to bring this Public Safety Committee to a close. It's 1:23 p.m. and we're going off record.